Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We are on episode 15 of season 2, the very best one yet. Support from this podcast comes from Fluent. Fluent fits into your daily grind. No more finding time to study. You browse the web, you learn a new language. It's that simple. Learn more at usefluent.co. So we're going to start off right away before we go live with our special guest of the day. Here is our fast fact.
Pumpkins, squash, and gourds are all technically the same species. That's right, your zucchini and jack-o'-lanterns are one and the same. Cucurbita pepo, a species that originated in Mexico more than 10,000 years ago. Farmers have since developed the many cultivars we know and use today. So there's your fast fact of the day.
I'm going to keep the introduction short today.
He is a high school tennis coach, player, and influencer of the sport. He also works in international business. He currently lives and works in the Chicago area.
We'd like to welcome Daniel Lee to the pod.
Not awkward at all. All right.
Dan, we're so excited to have you on the Daily Grind today and excited to share your story with our listeners out there in the world. So I guess first and foremost, can you tell us, if I haven't come across you already, who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
My name is Dan. I am from all over the place. Born and sort of raised-ish in Wisconsin. I moved back and forth between the U.S. and Asia growing up about 3-4 times, and then I've settled down in Chicago about 10 years ago now due to college, and then after college I stayed here ever since.
Very cool. I love the local Midwest vibes you got going on. Pretty original. Dan and I, we go back not too far. I knew you since moving to Chicago, but here we are today from tennis.
Right.
Tennis brings the best out in the world for a lot of my network, a lot of my friends, people I hang out with. What I'm passionate about, tennis. Obviously, we'll talk more about the sport as we go on in today's interview. But Dan, how do you become interested in what you do today?
So now I have a day job where I just work in pretty much, easiest way to describe it is like international business, but that's the boring part of my day. The more fun part of my day is how I actually met with Kelly, and a lot of people that I hang out with nowadays is through coaching tennis. I got involved with coaching tennis, actually starting in high school, right? Like just doing summer camps and all that stuff. And now I do high school tennis. I've done high school tennis in Chicago area this is my, I want to say 12th season. So about doing it for 6-7 years now. Yeah.
Wow, quite the grind you got going on in the tennis scene. I guess too. Let's rewind a little bit to Dan's younger days. So I assume you played tennis when you were younger. How did you become interested in playing tennis and now interested in the sport?
I think mine is typical of kind of Asian families or immigrant families where I wasn't in the U.S. yet. I came home one day and there's literally a tennis racket on my desk and there was a note saying, go to this place by a certain time, you're playing tennis. And I'm like, first, I don't even know what tennis is. I didn't really have interest in it, but I did grow up playing a lot of different sports. I did play basketball, baseball, soccer. I even did speed skating for a little bit. And that was kind of unusual because in a lot of Asian countries, you don't play that many sports growing up. But my parents, they were partially educated in the U.S. and they saw value in playing sports from a young age. And tennis was one of those things that came kind of later in my life. But it stuck with me, and it was one of those things that I wish I picked up earlier, but I'm thankful that my parents got me involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, really well said. I was just going to ask, too, did you have family play tennis or...
No, I'm kind of an oddball in my family. My dad was fairly athletic growing up. I know he did, he played a lot of soccer, and then he still hikes mountains to these days, but I think my mom might have played what they call, I don't know, there's like a different type of tennis in Asia where they play with like kind of like a squashy ball.
Okay.
She might have played that growing up a little bit, but tennis, as we know nowadays, I'm the only one that plays it in my family, and I'm the only one that's good at it in my family.
Yeah, Dan's got the humble brag here. He's pretty good. So yeah, I guess going through. So, child, you play some tennis, other sports, which is really cool. I think a lot of us, that are tennis as one of our key sports, do play like a variety of sports. Back in the day, I played soccer, I ran track, cross country, did a variety of things, and just kind of fell in love with tennis. But yeah, going playing tennis. You played a little bit of tennis in college.
Yeah, I did USTA college on campus, tennis on campus, or TOC.
Yeah.
I was like almost in the infancy of it when they just started going to it, but it was really fun. You got to meet a lot of cool people, not only from your school, but I actually became really good friends with Loyola University of Chicago because they were one of the other local schools. And so stay in touch with a few of them. We did a little bit of traveling up to Madison, Wisconsin, the Badger Classic. That was always a lot of fun. And yeah, also through that, so I'm sure most people are aware Chicago winters are brutal. And they start in October sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So once you get on campus, you get about 4 or 5 weeks of outdoor tennis, and then you got to start looking for indoor court space, which in Chicago, there really isn't that much. There's a lot of outdoor tennis courts, surprisingly, because people don't think of Midwest as a tennis region, but a lot of outdoor sports, a lot of spaces, but not that many indoor courts. But I did some research, and then a lot of these places were more like a country club type. So you had to pay a membership due, no discount because you're in college, it's really expensive. So I got in touch with Access Tennis, which was back in the day, it was on 47th and Lake Park. So from IIT's campus, it wasn't that far. And then we got involved. I was like, hey, we got some players that could maybe help out on the weekend. We'll volunteer an hour or two of our time, and in change, how about we get some court time or discount on the court time? And that's how I kind of got involved in more formal coaching in a sense, right? Just helping these juniors get better and better. And then now, I'm sure people even outside of Chicago heard of Access Tennis. It's run by Kamal Murray, who is the coach of Sloane Stevens, and he also helped Monica Puig for a little bit. And it's a huge facility now on the south side of Chicago, 20 plus courts, indoor, outdoor. And I actually train my high school team there now, so that comes around in full circles.
I was just going to say full circle there. That's really cool. Just how when you're younger, again, we preach a lot on the Daily Grind, connections and building those relationships. So you have that relationship with Access Tennis. You're not able to play the sport that you love, but also teach your knowledge, share your knowledge with others, which is really cool. So yeah, kind of follow up to my next question. How'd you become interested in coaching?
So when you're younger, sometimes you do those aptitude tests in school, and mine always, to my parents, kind of not disappointment, but they wanted to get more like a lawyer, doctor type of thing. But I would always get like teacher, preacher, social worker, those like highly respectable jobs. And I have great respect for people who do those things, and I wish I had the more patience to do those things, but not like necessarily high earning, right? It's like modern day blue collar work almost in a sense. And those were things I would get, and I would kind of put those things off to the back of my mind as like, hey, like I know I'm not going to really make a comfortable living doing this, but coaching literally one of those things that just fell into my lap. I was playing one weekend at a park near my house, started talking to these other players, because in tennis it's really hard to meet players at a certain level. Once you get past, let's say, the varsity high school level, then like at college you have some players. I was talking to them, and this guy's like, hey, I coach at a school just up the street. I'm trying to cut back on my hours because he was getting married, trying to find, and he was going to grad school and all that stuff. It's like, I'm looking for assistant coach. Would you be interested in helping out? I was like, well, how much does it pay, right? It's still a job. It's like, not much. And it really wasn't that much. It really wasn't that much. But I was like, okay, I can help a couple times a week, see how it goes. And I just quite literally fell in love with it. It was the satisfaction or the happiness you get from the kids improving or having fun day in and day out was worth more than money at that point. So yeah, that's how I got into formal coaching, and then obviously some stuff at Access did help, but that was my first foray into like formally being listed on the coaching side of things, like on a website and on the I had to register and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, a lot goes behind the scenes in regards to coaching. People, not just in the sport of tennis, but other sports in general. There's a lot of things that coaches do to help improve the team. But I can definitely tell it was a great, again, working on those connections and relationships. You ran to that one coach and become assistant, and then now you're coaching. You said 12 seasons already, so that's such a grind. It's a really cool accomplishment, and you're continuing to, again, sharing your wealth of knowledge for the sport, as well as making a difference in those young individual lives out there. That's a hope. But I would say even too, because you have experience as well coaching not just youth, but you also coach adults as well.
Yeah. So time to time, during the summertime, I will do some adults that I've done at the park district, local park district. They'll reach out, or some just neighborhood people, and it's like really unfortunate that tennis is one of those sports that does build great social bonds, but it's really hard to build those initial social bonds because, in a sense, it is an individual sport, right? It is an individual sport. Yes, you can play doubles, but that leaves 4 people maximum on the court. So just trying to get those connections, and it's so hard. That's the part of it. Like, once you make the connections, it's easy to find other people that also play tennis, but if you move to a new city, unless you join a league or there is a concrete support system, it's really hard to meet other people, I would say. But yeah, like, I met you, and then I think we know like 3 or 4 mutual people without even realizing that we knew those 3 or 4 mutual people. So I think it's also
I think this sport brings people together. Like Dan mentioned, we coached from a summer. I did a summer, helped with a summer program in the city of Chicago, which was incredible. Again, just bringing new people into the sport. If you haven't tried tennis already or haven't listened to how many episodes I've talked about tennis, this is your time. But no, I definitely challenge you out there, listeners, to check up a new hobby or skill. Reach out to new people that you haven't already. Build those mutual relationships. You never know who you're gonna run into, really, on or off the court, or in your lifetime, I would say. So. Tennis is, again, doing lots of great things in the world. Speaking of world tennis and whatnot, we mentioned Kamal Murray. So he was the coach of Sloane Stephens with Access Tennis. They finished up a world team tennis season, a shortened season. We were supposed to have them playing in Chicago, actually. But no, I guess like full circle here, we finished the U.S. Open not too long ago. First of this one of 2 Grand Slams that will be happening this year in 2020. So we're going to talk about 3 or 4. Yeah. But yeah. Or we did have 3. Yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh. See, it went so quick. 3 or 4. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately Wimbledon didn't go on this year, but yeah, we're going to talk some tennis in regards to Roland Garros, which it'll start on Monday. By the time this episode airs, it'll be a day into it, but draws just came out. If you recall my last episode or a couple episodes ago with Brendan Barker, and we talked about the U.S. Open and predictions there. You don't have to listen to that one because my predictions were way off. So I think everyone, even just the sports world in general, was very. I think one of the biggest call-outs from the U.S. Open was Djokovic. And his anger management, hitting the ball, and it hit the line judge in the
throat
area, which disqualified him from the number 1 seed going into it. So he was projected to win. I think I said that in the episode before, but don't discredit any of our champions out there who won at the U.S. Open. So we have, for the men's side, we had Dominic Thiem play.
Yeah. Well deserved.
Really great battle against Zverev in 5 sets, and then on the women's side we had a new winner.
Osaka, that's her third.
Or I'm sorry, not Osaka.
Osaka's
New
her
winner.
third, yeah.
Or I guess that's her third one. Wow, I'm totally out of it.
Azarenka. and
Azarenka.
Osaka.
Yeah.
Making a comeback after maternity leave, in a sense.
Yeah, Azarenka was definitely a wild card. I felt like. Well, she did have a good run at the Western Southern Open that they played in New York.
Pretty much, it was a repeat.
Yeah.
Same finals. Osaka pulled out of it due to her injury, and then in the U.S. Open finals, they got to play. So.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think Osaka was like in the mix, to be honest, just for these Grand Slams in general. Like, she's in the top 10, projected to do well. But I did not, to be honest, I didn't see her I didn't see her winning her third or her third Grand Slam this year at least.
Okay, yeah. I think it's interesting because she definitely has the firepower, right? And she's of a very interesting background too, right? She's Haitian and Japanese ethnicity-wise, but pretty much grew up in the U.S. ever since. And so her playing style is very American, I would say, right? Like a lot of hardcore tennis. So it's finish a point from the baseline, blast winners from the baseline, which is happening on the women's side. And even watch Dominic Thiem, he's standing like by the line judges and blasting winners from back there or trying to stay in the point from back there. And I thought, to be honest, Dominic Thiem's first Grand Slam would be the French Open coming up, Roland Garros coming up. But, I mean, his game is well suited for the hard court too. And, since you asked me in your pre-interview notes about the Roland Garros predictions, because American tennis was in its heyday in the late 80s to early 90s, I want to say, right? When we still have a great champion playing, one of the GOATs, Serena Williams. But on the men's side, we've been struggling a lot, and especially on clay. Like, can't remember the last time we had, I was like 99, Agassi maybe?
Yeah, it's going back to pre-2000.
Yeah, before the Big Four, before the European domination happened. And they're saying part of that is because a lot of Europeans grow up on clay, right? And clay not only teaches you how to play on clay, but it also teaches you how to become a better tennis player overall. And in the U.S., it's, 99% hardcore. Would you say?
Yeah. Not growing up. I played at I think in North Chicago area. I played on one clay court out there. I played in one, actually, Chicago. There's Chicago clay, a Chicago Open clay court tournament. It's at the Beverly Hills Tennis Club.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's green clay. That's the hard shoe. That's not the real stuff.
The red clay.
Yeah, it's not the real stuff. But yeah, I guess throwback to I think the first or second episode of this of the Daily Grind podcast in our first season. I think I talk about my win at that tournament. It was pretty wild. So yeah, definitely check that one out. Gotta plug in. But yeah, Dan, have you played on real clay or just hard true?
So Excess technically has real clay.
Oh, yeah.
They have that red clay imported from Europe, somewhere in Europe. But no, most of my experience comes from hard true too, just kind of that greenish, bluish clay that most people play on in the U.S. And it's interesting because you definitely learn how to control your body better because you don't get that natural stop. Or I say it's more natural, you don't get that unnatural stop of hard courts, right? But it's interesting because nowadays even hardcore players are sliding on hardcore, right? Kyrgios, Thiem, all these top male players, they're running and sliding on hard court. And I think they're translating what they learned on clay court onto the hard court. And that's really interesting because people think clay, to generalize it, it bounces higher, that slows down the game a lot, and it benefits topspin a lot, heavy topspin. Which is what explains why Rafael Nadal has 12 of the French Opens.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. 12 at one tournament. And Sampras, who was the greatest before, one of the greatest still, had 14 total and none on clay. Right? If you think about those numbers, it's ridiculous.
It pretty much is. if you think of it, Dan just hit the nail on the head in regards to the stats behind European players. Obviously, are doing a lot more better on clay court tournaments. But yeah, speaking of the greats, so Rafael Nadal did not play at the U.S. Open. He is he's in the mix for favorites to win the French Open. So yeah, let's get into predictions. So should we start with the men's side or?
I mean, Rafa.
Yeah.
You can't talk French Open without Rafa. I would say it's gonna be Rafa, Novak Djokovic, or Dominic Thiem. I give those three the best shot. I would actually consider one of those three to win with 95% certainty, unless something happens, like Diego Schwartzman beating Nadal not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that guy's my hero. He's like 5'6", he's like 5 foot nothing, and he's grinding it out there with players that are like half a foot to a foot taller than him. Man, like, as a guy who's not 6 feet, mad respect, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I was just gonna talk about that too. I was hoping to bring that up. Yeah, Diego Schwartzman I think it was two set win over Nadal, which is pretty crazy.
And I think he was 0-10 before that, if I remember correctly. Which is, in the year 2020, nothing is unusual.
Yeah, anything is possible. But yeah, I'd say likewise as well. I think Djokovic and Nadal are a team, one of those big three. It was kind of funny when they mentioned the big three on ESPN. I was like, wait a second, you guys. Roger Federer is not in the mix. But yeah, he's still not playing for the rest of this year. Yeah, I give Dominic Thiem. I think Alej Djokovic, I think he's just kind of trying to get back at what his mistakes happened at the Open not too long ago. He looks pretty good. He's been practicing pretty much. I saw Andy Murray is practicing right now in the mix. I don't know.
I don't think his body's going to hold up. Like, I mean, I'm really happy he's back out there playing, but with that hip and on clay where you have to grind it out, I just don't think his body's necessarily built for that. But yeah, I mean, Thiem beat Djokovic in the semifinals last year. Thiem got to the finals, and he's been really close. Like, I think 2 years he was in the semifinals a couple of times, and then when he did lose, it was just on the way to the eventual champions, pretty much. So his game is very well suited for clay. And I did a little bit of research, and actually, before Dominic Thiem won the U.S. Open, the only Austrian to win a Grand Slam was Thomas Munster from 1995 at French Open. So those Austrians do have like that track record, and then his game is well suited for clay. I mean, the way that he can play these games with heavy topspin, even one-handed backhand, is very impressive, because that's how Nadal beat Federer for several years straight at the French, was just by hitting a high, heavy topspin forehand to his backhand, which was easy for Nadal because he was a lefty. So a simple cross-court shot was kicking up on Federer's one-handed backhand, and you can't go on top of that ball. You got to slice it. Yeah, so...
that's interesting.
Right? I think that's what's going to happen, and then transition into women's side.
Yes.
I think that's a Wild West. It really is. Nobody has been dominant on the women's side as the big three has been on the men's tennis, which is also very interesting. I don't know how to pinpoint. Like, I don't know what the reason is, but it seems as though there's a lot. It could be that there's a lot more talent on the women's side, right? That there are all these youngsters that are as talented as the older generation, and then they're making a breakthrough each and every tournament, but they're still too young to be able to sustain that thing. Because like Ostapenko was what, 2017?
Yeah, she made a really good run at the French as well as U.S. Open. I mean, she didn't get that far, but French
she won it.
She won, yeah.
And she was like barely 20. I think she was like 19, and she turned 20 during the tournament.
Yeah.
And on the men's side, I would want to say it's part of it is like they're training a lot more, right? There's a lot more off-court tennis going on. A lot of training. Like Djokovic is notorious for not eating like gluten or
very strict diet.
Yeah, very strict diet. flexibility, and all that stuff. So that's also extending the player's life a lot, but also that makes it harder for younger kids to break through because these players are so well conditioned that if you go even longer than like one set, they can't keep up, I feel like. But on the women's side, pretty much besides Serena, there hasn't really been a longevity player as the men's side.
Yeah, I would say likewise. I think we're seeing on the women's side this progression now, this finally switch from the open era to, I don't know what they classify, to what the next gen is going to be, or what this is determining, just kind of the turnover.
And the
the millennials and the Gen Zs. I don't know what we've labeled this part so far, but like Serena, I mean, there's only so long that she can keep on playing matches. Some of the older ladies on tour, so now we're seeing a lot of the up and comers, the ones that are like high school age, even younger. Coco Gauff, was she like 15 or 16? 16, so she's still like high school age or even under 20. But
Osaka's only like 20 something too, I think.
I think she's in her mid 20s. I think what you mentioned before with Djokovic, and you can probably attest for other players both on the men's and women's side, they've had the experience, so they've been on tour for how many years, so know what to expect when they walk on the court, their name gets announced, how to handle press questions after the matches. So on the women's side, I think again, Wild West, I would say a favorite, or I predict Simona Halep. I think she's gonna make it to the final again. She just won this last tournament, Italian Open or something, and she was looking good on clay. So I could see her as a favorite. Garbine Muguruza always does decently well at Roland Garros. I could see her as in the mix. Serena, obviously, depending on, she did have like a roller ankle kind of at the end of the U.S. Open, so who knows what she's been doing after, if she's full strength.
And then Halep also, Halep did win the French Open, I believe, in 18, Muguruza in 16. Serena, last time I think she won it was in 13. But they're so all those champions definitely do have a chance. It's unfortunate that Ash Barty's not playing. But she released a statement saying that she hasn't been able to train with her coach because in Australia, I guess the lockdown is a lot more severe. So if you live in a different region, so kind of like in the States in the U.S., you can't travel even outside the region within the same country. So she felt as though that she could not play her absolute best, right? So, last year's performance by her at the French Open was it was lights out. Like, at the final, I'm sorry, I don't even remember her opponent. I'm sorry, because it was that bad.
She's playing out of her mind.
And she took, a year or two break to play cricket, I believe, right?
I think so. I think so.
From competitive tennis, played cricket for a little bit. I was like, hey, I'm going to pick up tennis again. She's kind of like the Michael Jordan of our sport right now. She's like, Michael Jordan played baseball for a little bit, came back. She's like, cricket, all right, I'm back. Let's go. And winning Grand Slams, so.
I like that comparison, especially since The Last Dance aired this year. And actually, who knows? It's in the sport of tennis, so we could see, that cross-training.
That translates pretty well. And I think that's another thing that I try to stress to not so much adults, but kids growing up. I think we live in this world of hyper focus nowadays, right? You have to be really great at one thing. They're kind of considering it to be bad to be jack of all trades sometimes, right? It's not well rounded, but much more concentrated on one skill set. And then I see all these kids sometimes when I'm training kids down at Access, or these kids are 4 or 5 and they're playing tennis, right? Which is great if they play other sports too. But sometimes focusing on one sport can lead to overuse injuries or not developing other skills necessary. Because you said you grew up playing other sports too. I did too. And a lot of the top players grew up playing other sports too, I feel like. Like Federer and Nadal, all these European players generally played soccer growing up because that's a big sport there. And you can see them juggling tennis balls with their feet during practices, or playing, kind of made up soccer volleyball with the net in the middle during things. And it helps with your hand-eye coordination, definitely helps with your foot movement, and you develop other muscles so it supports your body, right? And think that's a whole thing that a lot of people are missing out on nowadays. And I think that will translate well. Like, you start seeing these sports stars doing all these other cross training or meditation or yoga or eating healthier. And we all hope that we can be them, so we try to emulate them, but we may not actually be able to do what they do, but I think we can get the benefits of the way that they're training and stuff like that.
Really well said there, Dan. Just having that a variety of sports, that mix, because then you're learning, leadership skills, teamwork skills, all across the board, not just in that sport in particular, but then you can take it along with you when you go to college or after college in your first job or even down the road, wherever part of your daily grind you're in currently. But yeah, speaking of Roland Garros, just one more thing to comment on these tournaments. So U.S. Open, they had no fans. It was just coaches. Roland Garros, they're going to have the limited capacity in the fans. So Dan and I, both of us have gone to Roland Garros before, been, at the tournament, take in the atmosphere and whatnot. So what do you think what's your perspective, Dan, in regards to they're going to have a limited capacity, so it's not 100% full.
No, and they recently cut it even more. So they were going to have 11,500 fans. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be 5,000 each at the two big stadiums, and then 1,500 or so on the grounds area, I believe. But now they cut, because spike of cases in the Paris region, I believe, they cut it to 5,000 only at the biggest stadium. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really weird for the players. I think it will help the lower ranked players more so than the high ranked players, because these high ranked players, I don't think they've played in a crowdless stadium or spare stadium since their junior days, probably, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also a sense that these players with the fans, while they do bring something, I don't think it's like the U.S. Open where the fans are, I would say, the rowdiest. Mm-hmm, it's short of Australian Open, U.S. Open, the fans are the rowdiest. Mm-hmm. But at the French and Wimbledon, fans are a lot more, how do you say, tame? They're more well-mannered.
Reserved.
Yeah, reserved. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably a cultural thing, too. Mm-hmm. But without the fans, and they're still having 5,000 fans in the biggest stadium, so I don't think they'll feel it as much, because I feel like when you're a player and you're playing, you feed off a little bit, but you're so hyper focused. And then tennis is one of those tennis is the sport where there's no noise during the point, right? It's only after the point and in between. So while it does play a role, I don't think it will have that big of an effect on who actually ends up winning. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really well said. It's hard to tell, but I think too, who knows if we'll see another outbreak like Djokovic did, or a different player of that nature with fans in attendance, or just more waving to the empty seats versus actually waving to people out in the crowd. Hopefully it'll bring up the momentum or just excitement or energy maybe when we're watching this on TV or just streaming it, because right now it was kind of, at first initially when I was watching the US Open, it was kind of hard to get into watching it.
Did they not add fake noises into the US Open? I feel like some NFL games are starting to do that, but I guess it's kind of hard to add fake noises into a tennis match.
From a tennis standpoint or a tennis fan in general, it was kind of tough for me to get into. I mean, it was good. To be honest, I was watching tennis when I was working out during the day on the treadmill or elliptical. The work from home grind. Yep, that's right. So yeah, I'm hoping to get a little bit more lively this. Official ball of Roland Garros is Wilson this year, so be sure to check that out when they're hitting those cross court winners or whatnot, or those big serves. On court. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess unfortunately on the women's, there's a lot more Winston players on the women's side. I feel like now that you're talking about it. On the men's side, I mean the big guy's not playing in it, so we'll hope for a breakthrough on the Wilson. Have a connection.
Go Team Wilson. I think Dan, you play with the Wilson racket.
Yeah, I play with the Wilson racket. I play with a Wilson racket. I highly encourage people to play with a Wilson racket. Do I smell a commission check coming somewhere? But I don't know.
But yeah, I also too, since the weather is still nice out, I encourage you listeners who are tennis players are ready to go out and play tennis if you can outside while the weather's still nice.
Yeah.
Courts are open across the Midwest and across the U.S. So
it's a naturally social distancing sport, so it's one of the safe sports to play. You know, just don't put your saliva on the tennis ball when you serve. I don't know, you know. But as long as you're keeping the distance and playing out there, I think it's great. I think that's one of the great things that I'm grateful for about the sport of tennis is that I know a lot of indoor sports got canceled, a lot of high contact sports got canceled for high school kids, and you know we're seeing the toll that it's taking on some kids because that was their outlet. Not only is it good for social aspects or fitness aspects, it's also very healthy mentally to get your body active, not have to stress about something, focus on something for an hour or two. And it's been a very tough summer for everybody, but I don't know how I would have handled this kind of weirdness when I was in high school, right? Like, or if I was any younger.
Definitely.
Because you can't see your friends, right? Like, you can't hang out with your friends if you're being responsible in a sense. You can FaceTime and all of that stuff, but it's just not the same, you know? Like, I feel like whenever you interact via social media or the internet, a lot of things is kind of scripted. It's not as like authentic, or it's not like random or spontaneous, right? But when you like actually hang out with people and when you like have them in person, you get that random laughter, random argument, random things that happen, and it just makes you laugh. You know, like today we're being responsible human beings, and we're doing this outside in a park, right? Because normally we would have been indoors, but we're doing outside. And then as we're setting for this thing, this little kid walks by and starts smiling and waving at us. You know, that kind of just brightens up your day a little bit, because we humans as social animals, we need human contact, right? Like, and I think tennis and other socially distant sports can definitely help you do that. So I'm glad that my players are able to play. It's been a very odd season, but we're grinding through it. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Really well said there, Dan. Yeah, like that water cooler talk I missed for sure in the office, or just running into people here and there. Again, adhere to the CDC social distancing guidelines in your area, of course. Perfect transition. I was going to ask about your perspective on high school tennis. As like your team had no season last spring, so can you provide us insights right now for this fall?
So in Illinois, when, like in any other states, when this thing first got pretty much like serious, right? Like very serious. Everything got shut down. Everybody was encouraged to stay home except for absolutely essential services. So like that would literally meant going to the grocery store like once or twice a week to get your necessary groceries. And besides that, everybody was encouraged to stay home. So tennis season got canceled. Not only tennis season, all sports got canceled. And as cases started to level off, drop down a little bit, we were in constant communication with the IHSA, which is the High School Sports Association, and the local ordinances on what the guidelines would be. So we were thankfully one of the very few sports to be given a green light. Tennis, along with I think cross country. I think that was pretty much it. I know volleyball is canceled for girls in the fall. And football, I think, recently got a green light or something like that for regular season. But tennis, so we've been trying to be very good. Whenever players are not on court, they are required to wear a mask when they're socializing or interacting. Even if they're doing stretches and stuff, they're encouraged to keep their mask on unless they're on the actual court playing. Some schools are even stricter than us. Some schools require their players to wear a mask on the court while they're playing. Some schools, per USTA guideline, are also bringing their own balls to their matches. So you only serve with your own balls. You don't share balls. And then you only change over on your end. So there's little adjustments that we're making. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have a state series this year, because part of the reason they allowed us to play is so we stay within a certain region of playing time. So I think we're going to have a sectionals tournament, but I don't think we're going to have a whole statewide tournament. And next year, looking into next season for the boys, because the girls' season is going to be over in about 4 weeks. We're about more than halfway through. the boy season, it's going to be trickier just because even though it's a spring sport, it's still winter in Chicago.
Yeah.
I've literally played matches when it was snowing in
wow.
April and in March. So right now the hope is that we start the season a little bit later. I think we're going to start in April, mid-April, late April instead of early March when we normally start, and perhaps have a little bit of shortened season or just have it extend through a little bit more. But I'm glad that the government officials and the sporting agency and the schools are being supportive of any kind of sports that can be played, because I think they see a lot of adults and educators see the benefit of it beyond the physical activity. And I think that's great. It's not just running around and sputting. It's that social aspect you get. It's the maturity you develop as by interacting with other people and taking responsibility, dealing with wins, dealing with losses, dealing with progress, and all that stuff. It teaches you so much. Like, tennis is pretty much life in 2 sets sometimes, right? You experience the highs and lows of everything within an hour and a half sometimes.
Yeah, definitely like emotional roller coaster depending on what match you play or what the result is, or just in general the whole experience. But we could say the same for a lot of different sports. I think it goes just outside not just the physical benefits, but social, mental aspect of it. You're working towards a common goal, your own personal goal or team goal. We're really goal driven on this podcast, so again, a really great plug for the sport of tennis in general. It's good to see that you guys are able to play matches during this time, which is great. So we're hoping to continue in that direction later this year and next year. Again, just opening up more doors, getting more people out in their sports, and being able to make a difference and have that positive mindset and whatnot. So really cool with you sharing your insights on the high school tennis, because not a lot of people, daily grinders out there, do have that behind the scenes.
Right. Oh, I'd say one major difference is we are not allowed to have spectators. So no parents.
Okay.
And tennis is one of those sports where you get hyper involved parents. So it's been kind of interesting to not have that. And I think some kids enjoy that. Some kids don't want their parents watching. Some kids, I don't know, what type of player were you? Did you want your family there when you were
definitely.
playing? Okay. But I definitely have players who are like, no, Mom, you're not allowed within 6 feet, not even 20 feet of my court. I don't want to see you when I'm serving because I get nervous. I don't want the pressure. So I'll tell you all about it, but don't watch me. And there are players who kind of miss that. I definitely miss the snacks. All the snacks, all the little things that come with the parents
the
coming.
Snack bags.
Yeah, the snack bags are clutch, But that's one adjustment that I had to make, which is harder than I expected,
Yeah. Hey, similar to the pros, no spectators, so here we are. It goes down all the way to the high school.
Right.
You were already practicing social distancing when you were young. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge that we're going to overcome, and we'll just keep up on this grind. So speaking of grind,
the daily grind, Dan, can you walk us through your own daily grind in the life of Dan? I know every day is different for you, but maybe pinpoint some things you do out of your day, or some key takeaways for our listeners out there.
So I'll probably do my most impressive days in a sense, right? So during the summertime is when I'm the busiest. Sometimes I might day job which is a 9-to-5 thing, but before that I'll wake up early to maybe do a lesson. If somebody in my neighborhood wants a hitting lesson for an hour, or some kid wants to do a lesson for an hour, luckily I live within a 10-minute walking distance from a court, so I pack up my stuff in a grocery cart, roll it out, do the lesson, come home, take a quick shower, ride my bike to work, get off work, and then do another 6 hours of tennis lessons. So I work pretty much 2 full-time jobs within a day. And why do I do it? I think I'm lucky enough to have some a hobby that I truly enjoy that can also generate money for me, right? So like I sometimes I get asked by my friends, like more people, they're like, "Do you want to do like tennis full time?" Love to. I just know that I probably wouldn't be enjoying it as much. Right now, I'm doing it to supplement stuff that I'm doing. So as I'm doing that, I enjoy it and I get extra income, I get to interact with more people, I have fun doing it, I get to meet cool people, cool connections, and all that stuff. And that's a bonus, right? And that's what it is. It's a bonus. And during the winter time, it's pretty much just work 9 to 5 and I go home, right? But during the summertime, and then little fall, little spring, so about 6 to 8 months of the year, I'm working, and I'm also working on the weekends, right? Like I'm doing clinics on the weekends, I'm doing more lessons on the weekends, and I'm just trying to do that because I'm still relatively young, and I enjoy doing it, and I want to obviously, like I read, a lot of people want to make a lot of money, and if tennis is one of those things that can help me achieve my goal quicker, I'll do that. So my goal is eventually, one day, be able to start a nonprofit, right, that helps kids get access to sports, not only tennis but other sports, even if they don't have the income. Um, I was like one of those kids that grew up playing street tennis in a sense, meaning that I didn't literally play tennis on the streets, but I asked some of my friends if I could get a guest pass to their club so I could play during the winter time, or if it was cool enough, if it was like warm, I'd say warm enough for me to wear sweatpants and a sweatshirt and go out on the tennis court and play, that's what I would be doing. And all that adds up, and now I'm able to teach these kids that are in, I guess, financially better position than me because their parents want their kids to have that. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that for these kids. But right now, I'm only able to do that for certain people because I don't have the financial means to do it for free. But eventually, my goal in life would be to provide my services to anybody who needs it and build a bigger community. You know?
Yeah, really well said, Dan. Really enjoy your daily grind. Such a daily grinder out there, working hard on and off the tennis court. Love your vision ahead. You're going to make so much difference in the world. You currently do today. So as we say here on the Daily Grind, keep up the grind. So yeah, last but not least, Dan, do you have recommendations for our listeners out there for like motivation, stuff that you come across?
I think you have to, not sound corny, but you have to find your own happiness. Like whatever makes you happy, and try to focus on that and try to devote more time to that as much as possible. So whether it be if you enjoy singing and you work, 12-hour days, 12-hour shifts, whatever it is, maybe dedicate 3 minutes in the shower singing, right? Or if you have a commute, if you drive your own car, sing the entire way in the car. Do something like that. If you enjoy writing, you can start writing. Or if you enjoy playing sports, play the sport and make much time as it is. I think a lot of people say like, "Oh, I just don't have time for it," but I tell all my students too, like everybody's given 24 hours in a day. Yes, certain talent does make a difference when it comes to sport, or when it comes to, yes, you may come from a more wealthier background, you may do that, but everybody has 24 hours a day. It's not like the richest man in the world, which I think Jeff Bezos gets 27 hours in a day, and we get 24 hours in a day, right? Everybody gets 24 hours in a day, so that means if you have to grind a little bit harder, if you have to give up 5 minutes or 20 minutes you spend on your phone looking at Instagram or whatever it is, give that up and do something that truly makes you happy for those 20 minutes, because that's how you find happiness in your life. At the end of the day, it's your life. Nobody can judge you for what you're doing in your life. And if you find your happiness and try to expand on that, trying to amplify that and spread that happiness to other people, I think that's the best advice I got.
I like it. Quite the takeaway or takeaways for our listeners out there, which is great. Speaking of your daily schedule, we talked about your daily schedule. Dan, what's on your daily grind in the upcoming months later this year?
I'm looking forward to sleeping a little bit more. Not gonna lie. I enjoy this grind, but you know, at the end of fall season comes around, I am pretty I'm ready to hibernate, which means I just go back to normal people's schedule, right? So like people don't understand it. They're like, wait, you're happy to sleep like 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day? I'm like, yeah, because I don't get that sleep right now. So I go back to normal people's schedule and I'm happy. And I think that's the whole thing. Once again, about like how you define your own happiness. For me, working 9 to 5, coming home, eating dinner, and going to bed at a decent time, it's true happiness because I don't I don't allow myself to do that quite a bit. But right now, I'm all day, full day, and then get home, shower, sleep, wake up, repeat, you know?
Yeah, sleeping is essential.
Yeah.
For sure, to fuel our daily grinds out there, along with coffee and tea and whatever else you consume. So yeah, Dan, speaking of motivation, do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there?
Word of the day.
Yeah.
I would say truth. So truth meaning that just be true to yourself, right? Like be true to other people. And if you're truthful, life gets so much easier. And I think it's sometimes so hard because if you you work, I work, we work in you work in corporate, I work in business. When you teach, when you coach, sometimes you can't be truthful all the time, whether it be for the social contract, whatever it may be. But I think with people close to you or your friends, if you're truthful with them, that lifts so much burden off your shoulders. And I think that's one of the quickest ways to motivate yourself or to be happy too, because if you don't have to think about what you have to say or think about what you said or try to keep up a lie, life is so much easier that way.
Yeah, really well said, Dan. I think just being honest with yourself, with others, people in your circle, your network, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's really important. It helps you, stay accountable towards your goals, accomplishing them, and making a difference out there, like we said many times throughout this episode today. So last but not least, Dan, if listeners have questions, comments, want to reach out to you, want to follow you on social, how can they do so after the podcast?
So only social I have right now is Twitter, because that's the only thing I didn't get rid of. I got rid of Facebook, I got rid of Instagram, I got rid of all this stuff because I try to be true to myself and my life and be a little bit happier for myself, but not pay attention to what other people are doing. It's Dan K. Lee, which spells out Dankly, but that's just my middle initial. So I'm not insinuating anything. It's literally my name, guys. It's DANKLEE. DANKLEE.
Perfect. Perfect. We'll put Dan's contact info in today's show notes, as always. Thanks again for tuning in today's episode. A big thank you to Dan for being on the podcast. Hey Daily Grinders, we have an Instagram contest with Fluent for the month of September. Head over to @KJF Daily Grind to enter and win a Fluent prize pack and Visa gift card. Let's give a quick shout out to our Daily Grinders listening to us on the pod or have been grinding with us since season 1. Feel free to check out our journey so far and share your feedback with us. Give us a rating and quick review on Apple. Virtual high five to you in advance. To find the Daily Grind, follow us on Instagram @DailyGrindPod and on Twitter as well. Check out our website at www.kjfwi.org. Till next time, my name is Kelly Johnson. Have a great day.